Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Capitol Report on NTD television. I'm your host, Steve Lance. Amid pressure to tame gas prices, President Biden today turns to climate change. This as Democrats push for more aggressive policies, and Republicans say it is the wrong direction. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more.
In the United States, I'm using every lever available to me to bring down prices for the American people.
While again vowing to lower the soaring gas prices, President Biden on Friday turned his attention to climate change.
Climate security and energy security go hand in hand.
Hosting a climate meeting with over 20 of the world's largest economies, Biden urged countries to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. He says transitioning away from them will lower energy costs and bolster energy security, citing Russia's invasion.
Russia's brutal and unprovoked assault on its neighbor Ukraine has fueled a global energy crisis and has sharpened the need to achieve long-term reliable energy security and stability.
Biden also announced new initiatives to curb global methane emissions. And when it comes to high gas prices, he says electric cars are the long-term solution.
Over the long run, we can remove the pain of volatile gas prices and reduce transportation emissions by putting more zero-emission cars on the road.
Democrats are urging Biden to go further, pushing for a sweeping climate bill in Congress, citing recent heat waves and what they call an urgent need.
Our streets buckled, our bridges melted, and blackouts rolled across the region.
Republicans, meanwhile, are blaming Biden for the high gas prices, saying at a press conference this week that Biden's climate plan wouldn't work.
Your electric car costs about $55,000 to $60,000 on average. Most Americans can't afford that. But then if you added 1 million more electric cars to the electric grid, there's not enough energy on the electric grid to actually power the electric cars you actually want to get in the United States.
They're also calling for more oil production in the U.S., saying this is the solution to high gas prices and a volatile global energy market.
And as the administration grapples with soaring oil prices, President Biden is expected to travel to Saudi Arabia next month. It comes, however, amid criticism that the visit could legitimize the regime's troubling human rights record. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter sits on the House Budget Committee as well as the Committee on Energy and Commerce. With record fuel prices and inflation out of control, we have the congressman here to discuss. Congressman Buddy Carter, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Thank you for having me.
Congressman, the economy is being stressed in many ways right now, and the likes which we have not seen in decades. How much of this has to do with the aftermath of the pandemic, from your opinion?
Well, I think a lot of what is happening in the economy now, particularly with the inflation, is a result of the American Rescue Plan and the $2 trillion that was pumped into our economy when we really didn't need it. Look, I voted for some of the packages, for the CARES package and for PPP and programs that I thought were necessary, and I do think that they were appropriate and that they helped. However, the problem we've got right now is we've got too many dollars chasing too few products, and it's resulting in this out-of-control inflation that we're experiencing, 8.6% last month. And it's a result of the American Rescue Plan that less than 9% of that plan, of that money, of that $2 trillion went to actually coronavirus, went to COVID. The rest of it were these pet projects.
Congressman, another thing here, when it comes to these record high gas prices, we're hearing that it's because of Putin and the domestic drilling would not have an impact on the price of fuel. What is your take?
You know, that's just to try to deflect blame. I mean, Joe Biden and this administration, they want to blame Putin. They want to blame COVID. They want to blame everything except for what is actually the cause, and that is the policies of this administration. Day one of the Biden administration, he declared war on fossil fuels. He discontinued the Keystone XL pipeline, doing away with tens of thousands of jobs, and not only that, but sending a clear message to the gas and oil industry that they were not going to invest in energy infrastructure. Energy works on a futures market. And if oil and gas companies see that this administration is not going to invest in energy infrastructure, then they're not going to invest. And that has resulted in us going from being not only energy independent, but energy dominant to now having to go to other countries, begging them to increase their production of oil so that we can buy foreign oil. It is simply ridiculous. What has happened with the price of gas, what has happened with energy in our country is a result of the policies of the Biden administration, not of Putin invading Ukraine, not of COVID, but the policies of this administration.
Switching gears to the Supreme Court, more and more violent attacks on pro-life centers are starting to emerge. I think it's up to 56 attacks since the draft opinion was leaked. Is enough being done, in your opinion, to bring down the temperature ahead of the official ruling?
I don't think it is. The speaker just embarrassingly has said that this is not a big problem. Well, it is a big problem. If you're Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh or his family, you dang right, it's a big problem. And we cannot have Supreme Court justices making rulings based on intimidation and fear. That is not the way that this can work. We all recognize that. I'm proud of the legislation that we passed in the House, and I voted for it to offer security to our Supreme Court justices. But what's happening at these pro-life centers and these family life centers, that cannot be tolerated. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, they just want to brush it off as being, we don't need to worry about that. We do need to worry about that. We are on the brink here of overturning one of the two worst decisions I think have ever been made by the Supreme Court justice, that being Roe versus Wade. The other one, of course, was taking prayer out of schools, out of public schools. But we're on the verge right now, on the brink of overturning Roe versus Wade. And what do we see but these attacks on these family life centers? And that needs to stop, and the speaker needs to take it seriously. It is an embarrassment to this country, to her party, and to her personally, that she is not taking it seriously.
Congressman, on a lighter note, Father's Day weekend is here. Happy Father's Day to you. And are you going to be spending the day with the grandkids?
I am. Some of them are in town, others are not. But I can assure you that FaceTime is a great thing, and we will be FaceTiming them. And if I could just add, this will be my first Father's Day without my dad. He passed last July 25th, and I'm going to miss him on this Father's Day, but he's with me every day.
So sorry for your loss. I hope it's a good one for you this coming one here. And thank you so much for joining us, Congressman Buddy Carter.
Thank you.
Capitol Hill staffers are now writing up the text for more restrictive gun laws. A framework has been agreed to by members from both sides of the aisle, but there's some disagreements emerging in the details. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are working on bills to create new federal restrictions on guns, including checking records for people under 21 and encouraging states to tighten up their own gun laws, among other measures.
We all made a commitment to each other that we were supportive of the framework and that we were going to write that into law.
20 senators, 10 Republicans, and 10 Democrats have agreed to this framework. But there are some sticking points slowing down the process.
Well, the so-called boyfriend loophole continues to be a challenge, but as you may recall, that was what delayed the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization for a number of years. So
federal law already prevents convicted domestic violence spouses from getting guns, but it doesn't apply to other relationships. Democrats consider this a loophole and want to close it, but Republicans are cautious against making the language too broad, which could lead to a risk of people accusing former partners of violence and impacting their ability to get a gun.
They are important issues, but it's the nature of Congress that you sit down and work out the language and a compromise. If there's a little give on both sides, we can get it done.
Another sticking point is how to encourage states to enforce so-called red flag laws. The bill would give grants to states to encourage them to enforce their own red flag laws, to take guns away from people who are deemed by a court to be a danger.
We want to make sure that due process is protected because we're talking about a fundamental constitutional right.
The senators are still hammering out these final details, but time is short to reach a deal before the Senate leaves town for recess.
I will put it on the floor as soon as possible, so I encourage my colleagues to keep working.
Senators are aiming to take a final vote on this before they break for their 4th of July recess. And getting anything through the Senate takes hours of floor debate, sometimes taking days. So hammering out the details in these negotiation talks is crucial right now, and time is of the essence. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Today, the FDA approved the emergency authorization for Moderna and Pfizer COVID shots for children as young as 6 months old. This approval comes 1.5 years after vaccines were made available for adults. The Moderna shot was also authorized today for older kids and teens. Previously, only Pfizer had authorization. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is expected to sign off on vaccine distribution this weekend.
I know that many parents are anxiously waiting to vaccinate their children under 5.
She added that vaccines had been part of a successful strategy to control the virus. However, out of 8 million children under the age of 11 diagnosed with COVID, the overwhelming majority did not require hospitalization. In a hearing yesterday, Senator Rand Paul, also a medical doctor, had an exchange with Dr. Fauci over how vaccine recommendations have been made.
Dr. Fauci, the government recommends everybody take a booster over age 5. Are you aware of any studies that show reduction in hospitalization or death for children who take a booster?
Right now, there's not enough data that has been accumulated, Senator Paul, to indicate that that's the case.
Senator Paul then interrupted Dr. Fauci.
There are no studies, and Americans should all know this. There are no studies on children showing a reduction in hospitalization or death with taking a booster.
While most states are ordering vaccines for the newly authorized population, Florida Governor DeSantis will not be. He said that it doesn't make sense to vaccinate small kids just to calm parents' fears when children are a low-risk population.
Like we know that the risk is low. We're not sure how this is going to work, but parents are really frightened about COVID for their kids. And which I would say is, why would they be frightened about it? It's because of media hysteria. It's because of a lot of misinformation. That's why they're scared.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.